Good afternoon. I love this. I love an enthusiastic audience, and I'm already having fan clubs and cheering teams. First of all, a very warm welcome. And this is what we call the graveyard shift. This is the shift where we end the day. But I think throughout the whole conversations in the last 2 days, one recurring theme that we've all been hearing is the war for talent. And I really love the little conversations that we have in the holding area earlier, where this sterling panel actually were willing to share. And the reason why we are all here is we are all on the same boat. We would like to find the right talent with the right values to fit into the companies that we represent. But at the same time, we all have a responsibility to engage the ecosystem, to engage universities, polytechnics, and lifelong learners who are all willing to transform their skills so that we could solve the talent puzzle. So without further notice, I'm going to ask each of my panelists to do a self-introduction. And I think this is the way forward. We do not read CVs. We like to hear the voices of the panel, up close and personal. So we're going to start with Yolande, and I think she has a cheer team here, right? Okay, there, see? I know the city voice. Go on, Yolande.
So first of all, thank you for having me. This is a topic that's really passionate and near and dear to my heart. But for me, I'm Yolande Piazza. I'm the CEO of Citi Fintech. Citi Fintech was actually stood up about 2 years ago. We just hit our 2-year anniversary. And it was really designed to emulate the successes of fintech organizations. So we were empowered to be able to really think through about how do we become an agile organization. How do we deliver solutions in markets to our customers, digital solutions, and how do we find really those right disruptive partners and technologies to really look at changing the industry as a whole?
But I'm not going to let you go away so easily, Yolande. So just now you said that in spite of your very youthful looks, you are actually a banker for 30 years. Give us a little bit of the background.
I am a city lifer, so I have been here, and everything that I've done throughout my career has given me the opportunity to drive change and try and really focus on transformative change and rethink industries along the way. So it's been a hell of a ride for me.
So are you techie? Are you tech trained? What is your tech background?
So I do know COBOL programming. I did start there, but I've had an interesting journey. The majority of my career has been in technology. However, if you ask me, I would tell you I am a customer advocate first and a business person. I use technology to solve those problems. So I would tell you I'm one of those hybrids. So.
I love hybrids,
yep.
Yeah? So, and I think that's the way forward for anyone who wants to work in the fintech space. You actually need to be multifunctional, and you need to know how to bridge the gap between business and technology. I'm looking at Susan now. Susan from UOB. Susan, a self-intro.
Hello, I'm Susan Hwee. I'm the group CIO, and in that portfolio, it's really technology and operations. So I'm responsible to plan manage the current technology and operations infrastructure, as well as to plan what the changes that's ahead in order to support the business. And of course, in today's exciting fintech world and all the changes that is rapidly coming our way, is never a dull moment. Just to give you a bit of background about UOB, just within the technology and operations space, we are not large like Citi. We have an organization of 27,000 people. We have 5 subsidiaries and we're predominantly in Southeast Asia, and we're quite a premier regional bank. And we have 500 offices and branches just in this region. And of these 27,000 people, 4,500 are in technology and operations. And the global software center, we have standardized our entire operating platform out of Singapore. So it was no mean feat. So we operate in 19 countries over the same core banking systems. So right now what we're doing is then using that platform to really fuel the success of the future so that we can deploy services quickly. And like Yolande, we believe that what we want to do is to improve the lives of our customers. And sometimes maybe we lose sight of that, and that's why we want to collaborate with the fintechs to have a point of view, right? And how then do we partner together to make this journey and the customer centricity in what we do. Because at the end of the day, it's really not about the technology, it's about the value we bring to our customers, right? And so if you see our services and all that, that's how we roll out. Yeah.
It's actually amazing. We are hearing from two persons who are actually from the tech responsibilities, talking about customer engagement. Can you tell us a little bit before you joined United Overseas Bank, the background? And I have a reason for it.
Oh, really? I'm not sure then whether I started my life in IBM. And then I joined Citi. And in Citi, I was in technology. We're going through a period of periodization, if you remember that period. So I was a John Reed kid, right? So, and then that's when I think all the technologies and the engineers has a great time because we were transforming back offices with automation. And in my career, then we went on to transforming organizational models within Citi. And then, of course, the last, before UOB, I joined Capo and I did post-M&A integration of Capo and Capo Tartley Bank. And within UOB, I had the privilege, because UOB is quite acquisitive, several post-NMA acquisitions. So throughout my career, I like to be known as a change agent.
Very nice. And so you could be a city lifer, or you could be going in and out from tech firms to banking and non-banking. And that's part of the career pathway of today's working professional. We are actually transforming our own career as the industry transforms. I'm going to come to Hiro-san. Hiro-san has a fan club as well, right? Where all my, yay, see? Hiro-san, could you give us a short briefing about yourself?
Thank you very much. First off, I am very excited to be here to share our experience in Japan, as well as to learn from other peers in the panel. And also, I'm Hirofumi Aihara, General Manager of MUFG, Mitsubishi UFJ Financial Group. It's the largest financial institution in Japan. So we changed the name of the organization from Digital Innovation Division to Digital Transformation Division to transform our organization entirely to be more digital, to provide good customer experience, as well as to make our operation efficient. So
how old is this unit, this Digital Transformation Division in MUFG?
Just 6 months right now.
Very nice.
After changing the name.
Yes. So I think that's the message you are hearing. Many of our banking organizations are actually creating their own transformation unit because the world is changing so fast, and to get the banks to change, you literally need to disrupt yourself. Yes. But before that, Hiro-san, you have actually 27 years of experience. Can you share that with us? In which area?
So in my first 18 years in business, like equity investment, I managed equity portfolio 5.5 years. And after that, I joined corporate planning division as a treasury or ALM for the bank. After that, I moved to IT, starting from the IT planning manager in US. And I was in Singapore as a regional CIO for APAC region, and 1 year digital experience.
Very nice. And you have an engineering degree. Which engineering is that?
My major was electronic engineering.
So electronic engineers in this room, you have a future in digitization, all right? So that brings me to Clarence. Clarence, all yours.
Hello, everybody. My name is Clarence T. I'm the principal of Ngee Polytechnic. For those of our foreign guests, Polytechnic in Singapore is an institution of higher learning. It takes about 15,000 students at any one time and put them through a 3-year program. They usually come in about 17 years old and they graduate about 17, 18, 19. The government started a program called Skills Future a number of years ago, and they divided up different sectors among the polytechnics to coordinate. Ngee Polytechnic is the sector coordinator for banking services, and we were appointed, I think, about 2 years ago, which led us to really soul search about how to prepare the next generation for emerging skills, how to prepare them for a future. In the past year, we have done a number of things, and we like to call a program that is quite, we think, impactful, called Fintech 100. I'll speak more about it in a while.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Can we warmly welcome this whole panel? All right, without all the cheer teams. Yes. Very good. So we have about 40 minutes for engaging the audience. I thought it would be great if I hear from the voices of the two ladies. I'll start with you, Yolande. In Citi as a group itself, can you kind of share with us what are some of the talent you're looking at? What are some of the transformation journey like with specific examples? Because we really have a whole ecosystem of fintech companies here, and they would love to work with you, I'm sure.
I hope they do. As I mentioned, so we're about 2 years in the making, and when we first started, we really had to rethink everything. If we wanted to be able to emulate the success of fintech companies, we had to rethink our processes, our culture, our disciplines, and our talent strategy. So we actually went out and were a little controversial. We were lucky enough to be able to pull over the best of the best from within Citi. But in addition, over 50% of the team we hired externally. And what we did was actually not go after traditional bankers. We hired from the big tech companies. We hired from Google and Amazon and PayPal, from startups that had failed and startups that had succeeded, to really get a blend of talent. If you want to be able to change at scale and pace, bring people in that only know how to run at scale and pace. It's a great way to be able to really test your ability. So one of the things that what we were able to do is put a product in market that traditionally, through our traditional methods, would have taken 3 to 5 years. We hired our first Scrum team in March and put product in market by December. So that was an 8-month journey. And a massive contribution to that was really the talent strategy. So when you walk into Citi Fintech, if you ever come visit our teams, either here in Singapore or in New York or our various other locations, I would challenge you to identify, if you're sitting in a Scrum room, who's the engineer, who's the designer, who's the product owner, and who's the governance leads, because we include those in our scrums, because being such a highly regulated organization, you have to be able to enable and move quickly in that discipline too. So it's been a phenomenal journey. But it really comes down to what's our purpose. When we hire and when we recruit in a very different way. We talked about it earlier, but the diversity of fintech, we are one of the most diverse teams across Citi. And we really are driving to create this challenge. So we don't look like traditional bankers. The team have tattoos and wear jeans every day. We have ping pong on the floor. We've really tried to create an environment where people who join us can come in and focus on their passion to change people's relationship with money. And at the end of the day, it comes back to we know the people, we test for skills, but we only hire people that are really driven towards a customer journey and a customer outcome. And the first thing we do is eliminate when people start talking in I terms. We're a we culture. We're a team culture.
So just to make sure that we got you right, 2 years ago, Citi Fintech started in New York.
Correct.
In the US. And now you've started growing little satellites of Citi Fintech.
So we have, we have a team here in Asia that are doing incredibly well. So but obviously we're trying to build these services that can be reused across the globe.
So in order to address the challenges, rewind the clock 2 years ago. How did you get that first team started? I know you will hire from your technology partners. Are they still your partners since you pinched their talent?
They've started pinching from us now. Who'd have thought the big tech giants were hiring from banks? So while we lost some good people, I'm really proud of that fact.
So how big a team is that? in Citi Fintech right now?
So in total, we're actually about 400 people. So we have grown considerably. And the reason we're doing that is because we're putting these proof points in market. We're able to work with our colleagues across the organization on core problem statements and be able to create and design and deliver and implement these solutions at rapid pace and in a very different context. When you start with customer, you deliver different solutions. And that's what we focus on.
So I'm going to kind of be provocative. Susan, how do you pinch that 400 from Citi?
With pleasure, I think. I think really we all recognize that this war for talent is global, is a very unique time in the career, in the history of the world, where almost every part of the world is competing for the same kind of talents, right? Solving different kinds of problems. If you go to Africa, India, you go to China, you go to Southeast Asia, you go to America, we all have different problems to solve, but technology is there for us to harness to make lives better. So if I follow on from Yolande, when we looked at about 3-4 years ago where this whole journey was leading us, there were a few 3 pieces of architectures that we were looking at. One was on data. The other one was on digital, which is really this fintech, this whole digitization age. And the other one is on security, which cannot be compromised at all, right? Because banking is really about trust at the end of the day. So that 3 layers then drive a lot of our changes. Whenever there are business initiatives, we will use it to build it out. And we really do need people in all these 3 areas. So I now know Yolande as another source, which is very good. Just like data scientists, I think in just last year alone, we doubled almost the hiring of the data scientists. And the data scientists, we found that we need them not only in a central group, but they need to enable the entire workforce. Not just in the technology team, but also in the entire workforce. Because there's so much data going on right now. Actually, all our employees can be far more productive if they don't spend too much time on the mundane stuff, right? And how do we use machine learning, artificial intelligence, analytics, and all that to do that better? So if you take a look at all the other areas, there's scarcity of skills. Then we have an added challenge, yeah? The challenge is we are a regulated industry. I have my lovely MAS colleagues and everything else.
We thank the MAS for the fintech.
Really making this happen to really put the thinking box out. But at the end of the day, we must still remember we are a bank, and trust is very, very important. So we are looking not just for the skills, the talent to join us, but also people with the passion for the customer and who wants to make things happen in a regulated environment, right? And work it the way fintech works, but in a regulated environment. So it's immensely challenging. And of course, we want to find people who really subscribe to our values, because if we work in Southeast Asia, we want to make lives different in Southeast Asia across our communities and everything else. So for those who share the passion, we are the biggest recruiter out there. If you take a look at my team right now, we hire from around the world. I have the most diverse teams, like Yolande. I have Europeans, I have Australians, I have Chinese. Of course, the traditional, from the Indian community, from the Filipino communities, the more traditional hires. But really, we are looking. And when we look with our firms and everything else, we want to do 2 things. One, build the core talent in Singapore. But we also need to interject, because ideas needs to global. And back to Yolande's point, we need to scale, you see. It's not just about the small idea. We need to learn how to scale.
So how many do you have in your team right now, which is fintech related?
Okay, fintech is a very interesting, unique proposition, right? Because if you take a look at my digital architecture team and everything else, in the bank it's like a bit like the MRT. And from my angle, I have to run the entire infrastructure. I can build the biggest booth, but if the entire train doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I'm sure, just like in Yolande's space, the core team needs to make sure this handling off. So if you take a look, about 60% still has to maintain core infrastructure. 30% is where we are trying to put things in that right horizon, but we want to bring the 60%, like Yolande, to work in similar ways to work in similar ways, which is how do we move things faster, how do you push the paradigm and everything else. So it's a very interesting mix right now of new and old and really energizing the place. Yeah.
Very nice. We will come to how many open positions you guys have, yeah? So you trade on that later. But for you, Hiro-san, you know, Singapore, we look to Japan when it comes to demographics and aging. Our population is not really growing fast enough. And so if I look towards you and the company, MUFG, my question for you will be, where do you find the young talent within Japan itself? And even if you recruit from outside into Japan, not many of us speak Japanese, although we are all learning. Okay, so how do you get MUFG to find the fintech talent you need, and what kind of challenges do you face working as a bank in Japan?
Okay, firstly, as you know, the population in Japan is reducing. So we are thinking to free up some of the effort of our employees by automate on our internal manual processes. And also, we need to think not only about digital native customers, but maybe 60% of our portfolio in Japan can be the customers over 60 years or 70 years old. So that means we need to create several types of the user interface for digital native as well as elder people who cannot frequently using PC or tablet. So we need to get the talent, not only younger, but also the talents who can consider the user experience for elder people as well. So that's one of the thinking how we can engage talent. But as you mentioned, so we would like to invite or engage talents from all over the world. But as I mentioned, we have big challenge in Japan in terms of the language, but not only language, but also regulation, tax, or other culture in Japan is completely different, including labor law as well. So it is not enough to find or hire talent within our organization. Also, I am thinking to create an ecosystem, inviting startups or other big organizations like IT vendors or consulting firms from all over the world. And to engage startups from outside Japan, we are driving accelerator program, inviting startups outside Japan, as well as we are creating a package to support them to establish a business in Japan.
Very nice. So if I'm hearing all of you correctly, there's tremendous demand. You're looking for talent that can work with the existing pool of talent within your organizations, and you really need an organizational structure that allows for intermillennial and generational transfer of knowledge. So Clarence, are you preparing our Singapore Polytechnic and all the Polytechnic students for this new environment?
The answer have to be yes. About 13 months ago, now it's November, right? So about 13 months ago, the 5 Polytechnics inked a memorandum of understanding with our central bank, the Monetary Authority of Singapore. It created a program we now call Poly Fintech 100. There are 2 main parts to this program. The first part is to bring together 100 mentors from the industry to mentor Polytechnic students across all 5 Polytechnics in Singapore. We started in October last year with about 20. Now we are about 120 or 130 mentors in the program. And mentor number 1 is Chief Fintech Officer of MAS, Supendo Mohanty. And we work with these different mentors for all sorts of things. Mohanty, for instance, opened up the entire FinTech Festival free for all Polytechnic students to come. And last year we shipped about 500 of them to come attend it, so to get really listen from the industry. The second thing that we did was to open up a program to put 100 FinTech internships in 2017, which is this year. We have now placed out, due to overwhelming demand, we now have placed out over 160 of them this year. the idea is that we cannot do this in isolation. Academic institutions cannot train fintech talent by itself. We have to train it with industry. And the internship, which is a usually 4 to 6 months internship, is a way to do this. Now, this internship is very interesting for us because most internships are what I call internships that work on operating the present. You go to a company, you learn their SOPs, you try to figure out how to operate their existing product and services. Fintech internships are about discovering the future or inventing the future or reimagining the future. And trying to get students into that kind of environment, to get them into the innovation parts of banks, to get them into fintech companies, to get them into Looking Glass, the fintech side of the regulator, to get them into a venture capitalist firm, to intern with them, to do research, to intern in an accelerator or incubator. So we blast out the interns throughout the ecosystem and not just in a single type of companies. Now this we hope will help us learn. If they succeed in the internships and the companies love them, we know that's good. If the company find them not wanting because they needed to know something that our curriculum is not yet teaching them, it brings that back to us so we can build this positive cycle that the internship inform academia what the industry needs, and then we build this virtuous cycle to go round and round and round. And hopefully that will work out very well for us. And so that is PolyFintech 100. There is a website if you are interested to be part of the program, www.polyfintech100.sg. Thank you.
Very good. I will do my commercial later. All right, yes. We do the same thing in SMU and a little bit more. But I love these questions that I'm going to go live with. So I'm going to use my pigeonhole right now. I'm going active on one question, which has 2 votes. Can I have it active? Great. And the first question that I want any one of you to answer. How do organizations enable their employees to bring out their best and do what they love? Is it pay? Yolande, you pay better than us?
I don't think it's pay. I really don't. I think there's been a huge shift when you start seeing the impact that the gig economy are having, and people want to work on things that they're passionate about. So I think a lot of the ways the war on talent will be won based on the scarcity of really talented tech resources will be about creating the opportunities by allowing people to explore those passions, to really be able to drive those things home, and creating an environment where they are free to innovate, where they are free to create and deliver solutions to their customers. So obviously everyone wants to get paid well, but I don't think that is a single driver.
UOB, MUFG?
I think to me, pay is hygiene. So if we just fight on pay, the next door who pays more, you just leave. You just a constant turnover, right? So what we try to look for are people with a sense of purpose, right? Like I said, of who UOB is and our values, what we believe in, and the way we want to work, the way we want to respect the regulators and the stakeholders we have, and yet we want to change and we want to bring value to our customers, right? So we need to understand that complexity of the environment and how then using the creativity to bring innovation in that manner. So the talents that we are looking for must fit into that purpose. If they can see that purpose, then I think half the battle is won. Because for all of us who is working in the banking industry, it's a 24/7 job for even the businesses, right? So it's not about pay. I don't think we're paid enough. But if it's just surely about pay, I'm sure there are better ways of making money.
Very good. And for you, all right, Hiro-san, it will be a trip to Japan.
Right. Yeah, what is one of the reason why our global talent is joining MUFG. But more than payment. So when I talk with newcomers from outside BTMU, who has been working for IT organization, he mentioned money doesn't matter, but he need to have more experience in the financial institution, financial businesses, to have more sufficient business knowledge, combining IT or other business with financial. So that's one of the reasons why he joined our organization. And also, we are offering a lot of position to our employees internally. We are getting many submissions from them. However, I would like to engage the many other employees who are working in other business of lines. Because I did have some meeting with 100 plus capital market guys last week. Yeah, they are looking for the opportunity to create new business in their areas. So maybe it is a reason why they have some thoughts for innovation in their business.
Very good. And I think this question will come in handy for all of us here. And I'm sure, Clarence, you have a view on this, but I hear from the bankers first. And the question is, are relevant professional certifications important in your talent identification? So in the Institute of Banking and Finance, we've now come up with a program. And I think, Susan, you're smiling because you're involved in that TESA program. So do you think you need relevant professional certifications? Should there be specific fintechs sets in the future?
Maybe I speak on behalf of TESA first. As for Singapore, we are very, very fortunate that there's a lot of support. I mean, seminars like this, including, I think, with the government agency. So in the financial industry, we have a tech accelerator, skills accelerator program for mid-career hires who wants to convert. So I think the conversion is really to have experience and skills, actually within the fintech space, right? Or in digital space. I won't say fintech. I think in banking, we're talking about this whole digitization journey. There are many, many aspects of it, but requires all of us to have an appreciation of technology and what this new technology means. So the conversions will take place in different ways. It could be like Yolande says, customer experience. But you need to understand customer experience from a digital point of view. What does it mean, right? We have security, obviously, but we have data analytics and so on and so forth. So there are many, many of such conversion programs that's happening. So I would think it's more important the experience rather than certifications itself. Yeah.
Yolande?
I was going to say, it's kind of brave words when you're sitting sandwiched between academias, but I would take experience over certifications any day of the week, because that hands-on, proven ability, there's second to none. You can't even really put a really good price on it.
So, Clarence, what's our response? Yeah. All right, so they say experience. They don't need certification from either the Polytechnic or from SMU.
But Clarence, I would rather you bring your students in so we can work together on the experience. There we go.
We do both ways, yes.
No, I absolutely agree. Certifications is not going to be enough. In my own poly, I talk about the death of the transcript. Today, people graduate with a transcript, a CCA record, and then they go around chasing pieces of paper throughout their lives. In the future, it's not going to be enough or even relevant in some cases. What we started a program last year, we call it the digital portfolio. Every student should graduate with a digital portfolio that showcases what they have done with what they have learned. That's far more important, whether it is something they did during an internship, it is a final year project. If they come to a fintech company and said, I coded the equivalent of PayLah, or I built a peer-to-peer network, or I built a blockchain, it's far more interesting than says I had an A in financial technology. Yeah. Nobody knows what that means. And so we have to
Clarence,
build that.
Can they don't finish the program? Can they join the company and do so well, all right, and then they say, thank you, but you set me on this path. I don't think I really need the poly certificate or the degree, all right, and I want to continue on with my passion.
Sure. What's the object of
It's
education?
a good question, right? So it's a great answer.
But I'm
Susan?
sure also in Citi, but at least in the career, because I've been banking for also a long time, amongst our colleagues, there are people who had tertiary education, and there are people who had just 16 years and they come and they work their way, and they're very senior bankers and very, very successful bankers. The banking industry is one where it's not the certificate that makes a banker. It is really what you do and how you manage the risk and what you can contribute.
So I'm going to move to this question. I don't know why my screen here is not coming on. And I think technology is not cooperating with me on stage, but it is up there. And I know Yolande is targeted at you, but I think any one of my banker can answer this. So I'm going to make it generic. So what's your plan in your organization about the talent who is working on legacy platforms? Will you replace them or will you uplift them? I love that word, uplift.
I love that word too. It's a really good question because I think there's a lot of focus on what's going on in the digitization, and it's glamorous and it's fun, and yet you have these people come in every day that are running these organizations. As my colleague who runs the North America banking platform reminds me on a daily basis, we make you possible. And I truly believe that, you know, when you're clearing the type of volume that has to go through these legacy platforms, we have to be able to rely on that. That's where our trust is. That's where, you know, at the end of the day, that is our core. That's our proprietary and IP knowledge. So absolutely, I think there's an opportunity to start moving people over and cross-training and bringing some of their learnings into this digitization journey and these solutions. But I also think there's the other opportunity. What I would like to see more of is even just within more challenge sessions across the back end and the front end technology staff to really start challenging each other about where you can actually go and how you would do it. So no, I think they're definitely here to stay.
Yes, and I see Hiro-san, you were nodding your head. Are you having examples in Mitsubishi?
Yes, maybe my colleagues are thinking. We have a lot of legacy platform technologies in our bank. Sometimes I'm getting a lot of complaints from business users not to have speed or not to have flexibility of the functionality. On the other hand, from the IT perspective, trust of the systems is very important. So we need still we need legacy people or systems to run our system stably. Yeah, the combination of the legacy and digital is pretty much important. So in our case, we are thinking to implement internal API to have a more flexibility to connect legacy system and digital platform much more easily and flexible. So those are our thoughts right now.
Right. And I think in UOB, Susan, you actually have the professional conversion program. You want to share that with us?
Well, there is, I think the grant that Ravi has mentioned in the early part of the FinTech, and we are quite fortunate. So a lot of the announcements will be made, I think, next week. So I ask for the audience, akan datang, for those of you who are not Singaporeans, it means wait for the news next week. There will be announcements on that. And it is very important because we really believe that everyone, for a country of our size, we need to help every single one, not just the technology talent and the demands that we need, but everyone to move along in the technology age.
So this next question is absolutely interesting because in most of the events that have bankers, they all want to learn digital. But in this room, we actually have a lot of technologists and they want to learn banking. Surprise, surprise.
For all the technologists who wants to learn banking, I would really suggest that you come and join the banks. Because actually when we build systems, and I heard the word legacy, actually I don't think of them as legacy, I use the term heritage. Where these heritage systems are not good at is really the user interface, not what they do, like doing the accounting, doing the interest calculation, making sure you've been paid, reconciled, accurate with integrity, like what Hiro-san has just said. Absolutely spot on. But what we're not good at those legacy systems, was the technology of 20 years, was the user interface. The workflows, packaging the screens, and then of course with these mobile devices, how can, wireless and make it a lot more fun. But actually when we want to design, a real technologist needs to design, they need to see end to end and understand all the processes to cut through. Because if you don't understand the process, you can have a great digital experience when you drop. We said straight through STP, straight through processing, we say straight through people. And then drop into paper and then it goes on in the back. And actually, for all of us who are technologists in banking, we actually understand the entire banking processes, from the accounting to the controls to the reconciliations to the risk. So for those who really want to understand banking, really join technology.
Very good. I know, Yolande, you want to describe, but I wanted this question for you. All right? So the question is the following, and I think the audience has built a complete trust with all of you, because they said, my friends, bankers who are seated here, can you describe one or two projects which have failed miserably, and why? And what is that team working on now? Are they still employed?
So I love this question. We actually celebrate failures. And I think most people wouldn't expect that, to hear that from a large bank. We actually have, every week, we have what we call a belly flop. And we encourage people to talk about things that have failed, things that, it could be personal, it could be a team event, and we give out bottles of champagne to those. So every Wednesday, we have our stand-up meeting with the team, and we ask people to celebrate. And I'm going to be honest, in the beginning, people were very, very cautious. And they would put a toe in the water and put something out there just to see how the leadership team was going to react. But we're now at a point, so if we describe one of these, as we were building out the product set for the product that we put into market last year, there was one piece that we were really focused on, and we'd committed it to the executive management team, we'd committed it to our customer focus groups. And what we found was, because it wasn't one of the first pieces that we deployed, by the time we got to the point of putting it in, it wasn't relevant anymore. It wasn't, the technology had surpassed it in the space of 9 months. So we'd done all this work, and it was really tough for the team to come in to me and say, we think we're going to win the Belly Flop Award this week, and explain it. And for me, as a traditional banker, I really had to stop and think and make sure that it was a huge celebration. So where we've moved to become an agile organization, it's about fast fails. We're not doing multi-million-dollar failures. We're testing and learning. Every single release that we put out, so every month as we're updating our product set, you should rest assured that's all been tested with our customers. And if we put something in front of a customer and they don't like it, we scrap it and we start again. So I think it's re-educating. So to me, what's that team working on now? They're actually working on the biggest initiative that we have going on in the bank right now.
But I don't think they want to win another bottle of champagne.
Yeah, if they win this one, this one's huge.
Do you have such a scheme in your banks where you celebrate failure like what they do in Silicon Valley?
Always we are saying, fail fast. However, in reality, people are still very conservative to avoid fail. So it is a big challenge how we can change mindset of our colleagues.
I think that's
Susan?
what Yolande has said. I'm going to do that with my team to see how we can learn from it so that we can share. And I think when I read the sentence, right, as technologists, we are eternal optimists because we think the thing will work. But actually, as good technologists, we'll make sure that even if things fail, you'll make it work, right? So I think failing miserably, it won't be miserable, but it will be, I think, where there's a critical failure. And in banking, the critical failure is the serious ones, right? When, let's say, there are some failures that we really cannot afford. If I'm doing a post-M&A, I'm converting millions of customers and their balances right across overnight. That cannot fail. Zero tolerance, right? Unfortunately. But there are some, just like what Yolande has said, that it could be an experiment that we are doing with the business together. And it could be a short one. And it didn't work. It didn't bring in the P&L, it didn't bring in the revenue. And I'm saying the business people are still around, right? As long as it's not the same failure all the time.
You don't mind if they fail once, and learn from it.
Yeah, learn.
Very good. So I've only got 4 minutes, so I'm going to start with you, Clarence, to do the closing round. So in many ways, you want your students to be working with the fintech, working with the banks. So can you put a pitch on why is it they should work with the Polytechnic students to the audience? Your wish list, what do you want for your students? What are some of the exciting projects that your students are doing that you want to engage us?
Example of another way we are engaging the industry. So when we send all these kids or students, young people, to interviews with banks and fintech companies as part of our internship programs, we find that sometimes the first lesson we learned is sometimes they fail the interview. So what we did in February this year was to sign a memorandum of understanding with Singapore Fintech Associations to create 100 workshops, lab crawls and talks for these students. If you do 20 students per workshop, you can reach 2,000 students. We have done 39 events so far, reaching out to about 1,500 students this year alone. The problem we were trying to solve at that time was when they go intern in the innovation part of a bank or a fintech company or a VC who is investing in fintech, they have not learned it in school, the things that these people are investing in. How do we get them inspired on the vision? So we bring them to all these visas. There are over 30 innovation labs setting up in Singapore. Bring them to visas, bring them to IBM Hyperledger Lab, bring them to all FinLab, bring them to Open Vault, bring them to DBSX, bring them to all the different ones, so that they can understand what the vision of these companies are, so they can get inspired and start to learn about it. And if they do it this well, and they keep doing this over and over again, coming to this festival, for instance, then they start to believe that they can change the world. And then we need these dreamers to then go change the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clarence. For all three bankers, this question is for you. What are the main skills that you're looking for when recruiting in your fintech and your accelerator programs right now?
Curiosity.
Okay, Yolande's grabbing the mic.
Curiosity, passion, and teamwork. It's easy for me.
See, nothing mentioned about digital. Susan.
On top of us, for us, the cultural element is very important because we happen to be Asia, right? And we are very deep in China, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. So, and because we're the global center, I need a team that's culturally sensitive as well, in order to work with the cultures that we have, respect them, and the different regulations, because each country is in different stages of development. So how do we then create solutions, work cross teams to make things happen?
Very good. Hiro-san, you have the last word. What kind of skills are you looking for?
Yeah, three things. One is the mindset, to have a mutual respect with other peers, not only internal in business or IT, but also external IT vendors, startups, everybody. Secondly, imagination, to imagine that our customers' experience or business 10 years later. That is the most important thing, to create problem statement. So that is my thoughts.
Very nice, right on the dot. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard from them. It's not just about digitalization and digital skills. It's actually about human skills. That's why we are here to talk about human talent. Can we put our hands together and thank this great panel? Thank you very much.